we guys, when we're really chasing validation, when we're chasing those closed doors, we're often knocking on the doors of these hot women trying to prove we're good enough.
Mm.
And we're screaming to the world, if I get this hot woman and I get her on my arm and you all see me, I'm good enough. Zan Perrion said this. There's a difference between beautiful women and hot women.
Yeah.
Women that are hot may not be beautiful. They know how to, maybe they get breast implants, lip implants. They know how to pose for their Instagram. But when you hang out with them, there ain't much there sometimes. And then you got these beautiful women who are in such deep feeling and they can move in their feminine care and they really want to nurture and heal and give their feminine to the world to inspire. The women are just a metaphor for life. When you stand in front of them, if you're freezing up in front of women, you're freezing up in front of creative energy,
Yeah.
feeling energy, the energy that allows you to move into flow states. And getting in front of them and learning to relax is really learning to relax with all of life
I,
as life
I, I
tests you.
I love
Yeah.
it that you said that, the earth is feminine. And, I
Mhm.
often say that, the feminine, anything that's not nailed down, basically, the masculine's the constant. Like you say, our
Yeah.
backbone, the spine, it's the container. Everything else, women, dogs, babies, cats, opportunity, money, adventure, that's all feminine.
Hmm.
And to invite that to want to flow to us, for us to have a space for it to flow, we've got to be solid. We've got to be grounded. We've got to be in our breath. We've got to be in that space. Otherwise, we push it away. We repel that feminine energy. That the feminine wants to flow into the masculine frame. And
Yeah.
and and again, I love the ways that you help men create that. And it's right because my Dating Essentials for Men book. I say in the book, Dating Essentials for Men, I go, really, this isn't a dating book. I just call it that because that's what's motivating you to come work on yourself. And I say what really Dating Essentials for Men is a book and a method of how to expand your social and emotional intelligence that will help you date better. But as you say, that's just one of the benefits. To,
Yes.
to be able to do that with everything that is feminine. How amazingly powerful.
Well, if you can get balance between your masculine and feminine, you're going to start living in more and more cap, and you're going to be able to handle more and more stuff. But cap, I mean courage, acceptance, love, peace, the higher energies, emotional states. And then you're going to start to become happier and happier with life. And if you start living in an authentically, not a fake, there's a lot of people doing fake happy, authentically happy life, and not the positive thinking, I'm pretending to be happy life, but an authentically happy life, let's say 80% of the time, 80-20 rule. Watch your life explode. Watch
Yeah.
everything start to happen. And then you start to create a life that's amazing, living in the mountains, going skiing on the morning, coming back to do some work, and you start inviting people into that life. You realize that you are becoming a magnet versus chasing,
Yeah. I
and
love
that's
that.
huge.
Yeah, because I preach to guys the difference between what I call attraction versus approach. And I say approach, you see a pretty hot woman, I want that one. My ego needs that woman. I mean, I said we men make that mistake of confusing a dopamine hit to the brain that Mother Nature wired into us to be aroused, to be attracted. Oh, I like those hips. I like those breasts. I like, that form.
Hmm.
That's a dopamine hit to the brain. And it's supposed to be there. But when we men confuse that with that dopamine hit means she would make a good girlfriend. It means she would be good in bed. That's the big mistake that we make. But the
Yeah.
beauty, and I say that, so approach, I say, is pounding on closed doors. I want that door to open. I want that door because I want that door to open. Attraction is walking through open doors that just open all the way around us. When we are full and overflowing and happy and energetic and purposeful and comfortable in our own skin, those doors just opened and probably they're open around us no matter what. But we're so focused on that one closed door in front of us, we don't see all these amazing open doors we just have to walk through. How much easier is that than pounding on that closed door that has a very low likelihood of even opening for you?
Yeah, and I agree. And there's a difference between a beautiful woman and a sexy woman, hot women. Zan Perrion said this. There's a difference between beautiful women and hot women.
Yeah.
Women that are hot may not be beautiful. They know how to, maybe they get breast implants, lip implants. They know how to pose for their Instagram. But when you hang out with them, there ain't much there sometimes. And then you got these beautiful women who are in such deep feeling and they can move in their feminine care and they really want to nurture and heal and give their feminine to the world to inspire. And we guys, when we're really chasing validation, when we're chasing those closed doors, we're often knocking on the doors of these hot women trying to prove we're good enough.
Mm.
And we're screaming to the world, if I get this hot woman and I get her on my arm and you all see me, I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And if I get this, I'm good enough. And I know that person is unhappy most of the time, and he needs his drug hit to be happy. He needs
It's
whatever his drug
never
is.
enough, is it? We
No.
get one and then we're looking around. Well, that she's hotter, she's younger, she's got
Yep.
bigger boobs, And again,
Yeah.
that's that mistake we make we confuse our need for external validation and
Mhm.
that dopamine hit with true beauty, with the essence
Yeah.
of a true beautiful woman. And I know, for example, my wife didn't turn my head first time I met her, first time I heard her voice. I think she's fucking gorgeous. I just think she's a beautiful human being. And because that just radiates out of who she is as a human. And that's so different than, oh, she's hot. She's hot. So I love what you teach that teaches men that if you're grounded and solid, you are just going to naturally draw and attract that to you. So let me ask a question. I've got a few questions I want to, I know I won't be able to ask you all everything I want to ask you. So why are men, even while we're wanting those hot women, why are we so afraid? Why are we so intimidated? Why do they make us so overwhelmingly anxious? And I'll make this a two-part question. And how can we use feminine beauty and what you teach? How can we use that as maybe even a masculine initiation to help us feel our fear and still take powerful action? So why do they make us, why does every guy go, I'm so afraid to even talk to her?
Mhm.
And how can we transmute that? How can we move that and create a powerful masculine initiation for ourselves where we learn to take action and get comfortable feeling uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think what you said there is you said this once about No, Mr. Nice Guy. You did it in the Chris interview, the Chris Williamson interview. Did I say his name right? I hope I got it
Oh,
right.
I think
And
that's close enough.
and you said that there's a lot of different types of nice guys out there, and I used to think there was only one. And it's the same thing with the reason that women terrify us. There can be many reasons. Um, the core of it, I think you also said in the Chris Williamson interview, is that we bond to the feminine at a young age and we seek its validation.
Yeah.
And because we never get initiated out of that anymore, like our ancestors, our fathers used to take us, and there's an old ritual I used to hear about from a Native American tribe where this Native American tribe would they be bonded and sleeping in the tent with the Native American mother, up to a certain age. And I don't remember what the age was, but at a certain age, they would have a ritual where the tribe elders, the men, would come in the middle of the night, bust into the tent, grab the boy, rip him away from his mother. The mother would scream, "Don't take him." The men would say, "I'm taking him," and it was all a show, right,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
little boy. And then he would be scared, and then he had to learn to face his fear. He had to learn to step into that fear, that tension, and learn to become a man and go through his initiation rites. And then they take him out to do his initiation rites. And the initiation rites always represented some form of death. It's an ego death, right? It's some facing death, facing fear, because you can't fully live until you're no longer afraid of death. I mean, if you're afraid of dying all the time, you're gonna not fully live. You're gonna constantly hold back. You're gonna constantly not do what you need to do in this world to show up for the people in your life. So that's huge. So men, who are afraid of death, who haven't been initiated, are afraid of emotion because emotion, they got to control it all because if I let anything in, it's all going to fall apart. And the feminine is emotion. It's feeling, it's depth of feeling. And if I let feeling in, I'm going to become needy. I'm going to become weak. I'm not going to get things done. On the days I'm sad, I'll sit around and do nothing. I got to focus. I got to go, go, go. I can't be vulnerable. I can't let stuff in. But when you look at men who have become really good at being vulnerable in a strong way, like they let everything run through them and it still doesn't stop them. They say, "Yeah, I'm sad, and I'm showing up anyways. Yeah, I'm sad. Let's talk about this. Let's dig in and let's get to the intention I set and we set to move forward." That is the most attractive man on earth. because
Yeah.
very few men can do that. And that's what we're missing. And I think some of our more primitive tribes really understood that piece, that's what the initiation rites were about.
Yeah, and
And
Robert Bly talks about that exact same thing in Iron John, the same kind of thing. And the beauty of the women participated in this
yes,
transition for the little boys. And as I said to Chris and I've said to others, this isn't the women's fault. Where have the men been to come initiate the sons? And I think a good woman, a good mom wants her son. I mean, women write me and say, Dr. Glover, my son, he's 16 and his girlfriend's already walking all over him. What
mm,
can I do to help him? I go, nothing. You're his mother. Whatever you do to try to help just perpetuates, that situation that he's already trying to have the approval of a woman. But that's one reason I created Integration Nation. I just know we men need this kind of initiation. We have more and more younger generations coming up, going through an educational system that's highly feminized. You know, Parents tell me their sons, 11-year-old boys come home from school, 8-year-olds, saying they're talking about toxic masculinity in school. And when you're
yeah,
6, 7, 12 years old and all of a sudden everything masculine is toxic, where how are the boys going to ever evolve into their masculine selves if we men are not there to help that happen? So
yeah. Whatever
I'm
you
I'm
focus on
I'm
expands.
yeah, I'm so
You
so
focus on
passionate
toxic
about that.
masculinity, that's you're going to see it everywhere in the world because you're thinking about it. And is it even a real thing? I mean, you can't have toxic masculinity by law of polarity without toxic femininity. Now we got to talk about without even saying the word toxic femininity, we're going to start the response to toxic masculinity is look at all these bitches out there
Yeah.
that are
And
manipulating you.
where's all that going to take us? It,
Yeah,
it it
it's going
it
to take us
doesn't.
downhill.
All right, let's talk more about embodiment.
Yeah.
Good. So, what is embodiment? And I'm gonna ask you a threefold question. So you have to juggle three balls here. I When I first joined a men's program with John Wineland 6 years ago, and it's called EMLT, Embodied Men's Leadership Training. And we're about 2 months into the program, and on a call, I said, John, what's embodiment? I had no fucking clue what embodiment was. I came out of a therapeutic world. I didn't come out of the yogic world, even though I already knew who David Data was. And I'd done some workshops with him. Okay, so what's embodiment? Why is it important for men? And would you contrast the way you teach embodiment, compare, contrast with the way, say, David Data, John Wineland teach it?
There's probably similarities because I've studied a lot of data. John Wineland studied a lot of data. I haven't seen John Wineland's program specifically. We spoke at the same event once and we've talked. Um, and I really respect him. And embodiment to me has evolved a lot. My embodiment came from a teacher who has passed away. His name's Carl Wolf. And he really taught me to get into feeling. You use the embodiment to get to what he called feeling,
Mhm.
which is the balance of your masculine and feminine, ultimately the turning on of getting all the thinking to go down through the body to create flow states, to live in flow, to express from those flow states. And I began to notice something very important. Embodiment is almost, for lack of a better term, kind of like a disembodiment. What do I mean by that? We are typically in our heads thinking a lot because we're resisting feeling our hearts. We're resisting feeling our gut instincts. We're resisting feeling our turn on all day long. Because the body is the expression of everything you're feeling into the physical world. It is your vehicle for the physical world. If I'm going to go through the physical world and I'm going to talk to another person, I can think my way through that conversation, which has no emotion, or I can feel my way through that conversation through my heart, through my stomach, through my gut, which they feel all of it. The more embodied athlete gets the girl in high school for a reason, right? The analytical guy does not get the girl for a reason because he's not feeling. We can feel each other's emotions. A great speaker like Martin Luther King gets on stage and we feel his passion, his emotion. We feel it all come through his heart. We feel the turn on come through his turn on. If you watch James Dean, you feel the turn on coming off his body as he drops down into his turn on and talks. He's talking from that part of his body. So embodiment is getting rid of the resistance to feeling those parts of the body that we've shut off out of shame and guilt, We were told, oh, you can't be turned on around women. You have to talk to them from up here because you'll be objectifying them.
Yeah.
You can't show too much heart for your guy friends tell you because they'll use you and they'll step all over you and you'll get attached and you can't. And so it's the reintegration of the whole body and you're getting your head out of all that thinking because all that thinking is literally the future and the past. It's not the now.
Yeah.
And the embodiment is all about the now. If you keep going though, eventually you start to realize more and more you're not even your body. You're just riding in it like a car. And the less attached you are to the body, the more you can fully feel it and ride it and enjoy it, the more power you have in the world. Because the more I think I need this body to stay safe, I need to protect it, I need it, the harder it is to actually go out and do the things you need to do. And and so it's weird how embodiment takes you into the body, then eventually takes you through the body and beyond the body. And that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to keep going on that journey.
When I started, got about halfway through your book and you really got into tension, it resonated so much with me because I've been teaching a course that I call positive emotional tension for quite some time. I'm reading your stuff and I go, man, we are just like so aligned on this tension thing. Because what I say is that women have to experience tension to experience attraction and arousal and
Mhm.
attachment towards a man. And we men hate emotional tension. We're always I call it putting the wet stuff on the red stuff. Got to get that fire put out now. Get rid of all tension. And so talk a little bit about tension and why it is essential to kind of live our best lives, to hold that attraction for the feminine and what we do with it. Right?
Well,
We're not trying to get rid of it. So what do we
no,
do with it?
no, tension is life for men. Men love tension when they're in their masculine. Now, emotional tension is a little different than physical tension. Okay. So that's when men tend to shy away from emotional tension and want to step into physical tension. And so riding a wave on a surfboard is tension. That wave swells and gets bigger and bigger. And the bigger the wave we can ride and fly down the front of it and stay in time with the wave, the more proactive with the wave we are, the more we're staying in relationship to tension. And then the more addicted to it we become. By choice, I go out there and first I'm riding 5 foot waves, 7 foot waves, 10 foot waves, and I'm just bigger, 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 or a bigger mountain to ski on. Or if we're approaching women, more hot, we get addicted to the tension of it. Men that are in their masculine and really have built a positive relationship to tension, as you put it, a proactive relationship, as I put it. And bodybuilding is a great example of this too. Men that go out and have really built a strong relationship to tension, put their body under a lot of tension through lifting weights, have built these really muscular bodies that can handle a massive amount of tension, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? The problem is that most men aren't taught at a young age because they haven't had initiation rites to step into tension, like the football players and the jocks and to really enjoy it and fall in love with it. So what we do is we hear somebody like me speak and say, "Hey, you need to get good with tension." Because tension leads to, and I'm going to put this back to the women part here in a second, leads to flow, leads to women, and women love to see a man that can handle tension, the fireman, the military guy, the guy in uniform. It's all representation of a
The
man that
rock
can handle
star, the
the rock.
athlete.
Yeah, rock stars standing on stage in front of 1,000 people, and he's controlling the flow of all that emotion. That's tension, you know. So women love that, right? And they see it flowing, and they see a guy that can handle it. It's beautiful. The average guy, because he's not been initiated into tension properly, he burns out on tension. He feels a little bit of tension and he runs away from it. He feels a little bit, and then he says, "Here's me go. Oh, go out and step into a lot of tension." And he goes out and steps into way more tension than he can handle because he's never been initiated into it. And he burns himself out like trying to lift too much weight at the gym, trying to play a college football game when you've never thrown a football before, right? That's way too much tension. And so when a guy learns to go out there and gets initiated into tension with other men and gets the right amount of tension for his level and then builds it slowly, he can become very addicted because at the highest level, tension builds masculinity. We love it. We get in front of each other, martial arts, football, wrestling. But for the guy who hasn't built his tension skills, he still loves the tension. But where does he get it from? He typically gets it from watching football, going to a
Playing
movie and watching
playing a
martial,
video
yeah,
game.
playing a
Yeah.
video game. I'm going to shoot all these guys, right?
Yeah.
Going to the movies and watching a martial arts movie and then saying, I'm going to go learn Kung Fu, but then he or learn karate and then he goes and takes one class and never goes back.
Yeah.
Right. Now what do you got there? I've got my attention fix in an air conditioned room and a cushy seat with popcorn and candy and soda, you know. But that same guy, because he's watching that movie, because he's exploring that, has the craving for it, but he's never been initiated into it properly.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
that and that's what he needs. He needs the proper initiation and he needs to grow it naturally to where it's meant to be for him. The next stage is then learning to take those tension skills and letting emotion flow through and grounding it. Like I could feel my woman's emotions and her passions is what David Data is talking about. I feel her turn on. And instead of getting reactive to it, like I would a wave, like if I was afraid to ride the wave on the surfboard and I got reactive and I paddle too fast, I get buried by the wave. Paddle too slow, I'd miss the wave. But if I stay proactive, I can ride the top of that wave, the swell, and I don't rush it. I don't rush the tension. I don't rush the emotion. And then when it comes back down naturally, I ride it down. And when you get that experience with a woman where she comes at you with emotion, turn on, passion, and you ground it through your body, you expand, you channel it, you ground her out, and you watch her turn into a purring kitten because you just did that to her because it's the sexiest damn thing.
Even when they're bringing anger at you,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they're wanting to test you. Can is he man enough to be my man? Can he handle,
exactly.
as one of my exes used to say, I'm just a little girl making noise.
Hmm.
And when I'm like this, oh no, and she would say,
Hmm.
if you can't stand up to me, how will I know you can ever stand up for me? And she
Yeah,
was right.
exactly. She is 100% right.
100% right.
Yeah, and so if you look at that, what you just said is everything because as she comes at you, you'll think about the two different guys. Here's the guy, analytical guy, nice guy, and the tension comes at him, and he tries to reason with it. He tries to explain it to her. He tries to explain it away. He tries to convince her she's
I've
wrong.
never
He
done that ever. Never in my life
no,
have I
no,
done
no,
that.
neither have I. And then what does she do? She gets more mad
Yeah.
and then she doesn't want to talk to you, and then she
Shuts down.
and she
Yeah.
yeah. Now picture a guy who's really good with tension. She comes at him at 100 miles an hour with her anger and passion, and he smiles at her. He opens his heart. He grounds her. He plays with her. He doesn't try to explain to her. He doesn't use logic. He dances with that tension. Next thing you know, she's in bed having wild sex with him
Yeah. I'll tell you
and purring like a kitten.
a quick illustration of that. And then we're going to segue into a really fun part of the interview, of the talk here. I dated a woman for a few months. She was a great woman, but she didn't bring a lot of attention. She was a nice girl. And so we broke up, but we stayed friends. And we'd still occasionally have sex when we're in between relationships. And I remember one time, because she really got mad at me. She got mad at me. And I went like this with her physically. Bring it, bring it. And she goes, stop that. You know how much that turns me on when you do that. And I'm thinking, I had no fucking clue that it turned her on, that I went, bring it, bring your anger, because I wasn't, I wasn't upset, I wasn't afraid of it, right? I was welcoming it. And she goes, that turns me on. Stop it. I want to be mad at
Yeah.
you. I don't want to be turned on by you right now. So it's so funny that we so misconstrue that energy from women. And
Logic ruins it. It just ruins it.
logic ruins it.
They've got the feminine is power. It's the gunpowder. It's the explosion. We think we're the power. We're not the power. They're the power. That's why you do not want to compete with them on the level of anger. They will come at you if they're more feminine with more rage and more randomness and more attack. But the problem is they can't channel that power. When that power builds in them, if you can ground it and say, come on, bring it through my channel,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't out channel you. They can't out ground you and you're a much better container flower, and you say, let it run through me, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to analyze it. I'm going to feel it all, and I'm going to ground it and put it right where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's what I've been looking for. That's what she's saying.
One of my coaches on a call a couple of years ago, we were kind of talking about this energy, and he just said masculine frame, feminine flow. And that just, explained it all. That masculine is the frame, that feminine is the flow that wants to flow into, and, but it wants to be contained. And
Yeah.
that's
I'll say it a little differently. You got masculine frame and you got feminine power. And if you put the two
Mhm.
together, you get flow.
Okay. All right.
So
So
if
let's do that's going to let me segue into something I love and doing on these interviews is the 1 minute questions. I put you on a timer. I say a word or I read a phrase from your book, and you got 1 minute to give me an answer. And guess what? The very top word is. I'm going to hit the timer. So we're going to start this little game with flow.
Flow. Flow is the balance between the masculine and feminine. If you can feel the masculine build in your body, you're in resistance to some feminine, right? As the tension, excuse me, you feel the tension builds in your body. You let it build up right to its edge, but not so much that you want to close down. And then you surrender and relax that masculine a little bit. It's like opening a hose wider. That emotion, that feeling can then flow through your body and create flow. And that flow is addictive. As men, when we go out to create flow, whether it's on a snowboard or on skis or playing a basketball game or riding bicycle or whatever we do that's challenging martial arts, when we hit that flow, there's nothing more addictive. That's what we're chasing. That's where the surrender happens. That's where our masculine really feels alive, is when we're balanced with feminine.
Love it. All right, ready
Mm-hmm.
for another?
Mm-hmm.
Proactive versus reactive.
Proactive is in when you're in time with the energy that's rising, the feminine energy, when you're in perfect time with it, dancing with it, flow, that creates flow state. Reactive is when you're out of time with it. If you take a wave, for example, if anybody is a surfer, as the wave swells, if you can stay on top of that wave and ride it, not rush it, not try to get rid of it as fast as possible, not try to get it done, and just enjoy the ride, now you're being proactive. If you go too fast and rush the wave, like I got to get this done, I got to get this wave done, I got to get this job done, I got to get this energy done, the wave crashes on top of you and you tend to have to start over, you screw up, everything gets messed up. If you go too slow, you tend to miss the wave, you miss the challenges, you miss the opportunities. So it's really about saying, okay, I just screwed up. Now, how do I ride the wave of the embarrassment that's gonna come as everybody looks at me, and I'm gonna just sit in it, enjoy it, and let it flow through my
Yeah.
body, and that grows you.
That's the good men doing better. Yeah,
Yeah,
we can keep doing better. All
yeah,
right. Next one. You having fun?
oh yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Sexy bastard.
Sexy bastard is a man that's really comfortable with his sexual energy and his turn on to the point he doesn't apologize for it. He doesn't apologize for being a man with cock and balls. He doesn't apologize for loving pussy. And I use those words on purpose because it triggers people. He doesn't apologize for wanting to stick his cock in a pussy. He doesn't apologize for telling a woman she's got a sexy body, sexy pussy. He does in a weird sort of way, is comfortable objectifying women, but he also can see the heart of a woman, and that's why it works. He can see her humanity, and he can see her animal all at the same time, and he enjoys it. This is the same guy that's not afraid if he just met somebody to say, "Yeah, sex is awesome. I love sex, man. Don't you love sex? Sex is great." He might have just met a girl. He's not saying I want to go have sex with you right now, although he might be willing to say that if the moment's right. He's like, you know what? I'd love to have sex with you. He's comfortable with that because he doesn't see sex as bad, wrong, or negative. He's super comfortable with it.
Next one. Carnivore.
Carnivore. Well, in my mind, carnivore is somebody that eats a lot of meat, which
I'm asking
I
you because last time I was around you, you were eating a lot of meat.
yeah, I sometimes go full carnivore and even so full lion, which is where I just eat steak for a week, 2 weeks at a time. And when I'm full carnivore, I'm just eating meat, internal organs, and I love it. It makes me feel better than any other diet. I don't always stay there. Sometimes I add fruit in for a while. I'll add carbs in, but then I go back to full carnivore, and that's when my hormones get healthier, I get healthier, I get stronger. And I've been vegan, I've been raw vegan, I've been vegetarian. All that made me sicker. Carnivore straightened everything out, and it just made me feel alive. So,
Okay. I don't know who this is, but it's in your bio. Adam.
Adam, oh, Adam, that's an we
There's
had
quote
we
marks around Adam. Like maybe that's not his real name.
It's not his real name. No, it's not his real name. It's a guy that's the first natural I ever lived with or hung out with. Like when I joined this yoga cult, when I was a new age nice guy, I joined a yoga cult. I didn't know it was a yoga cult, but when I got in there, I was living in there with all these yoginis, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be I'm a new age nice guy. I'm going to get a lot of these hot yogi women, and that's my spot. That's where I'll do well. Well, none of these yogi women wanted to date me or fuck me. They all wanted to fix me. They all wanted to talk with me and teach me how to be a better man. And Adam moved in. He was fresh out of a prison on parole, had no place to go, and so they took him in. This guy who was a bad boy and didn't give a fuck what women thought of him had every one of these yoginis I was in love with wanting to fuck him. And it drove me fucking nuts. And I even watched my ex-girlfriend want to fuck him. So I decided when we left the yoga cult to get an apartment with him and watch how he operated. And I started really studying his mindset and the way he thought.
All right, one
And
last one.
and by the way, he was a very spiritual guy too, but
Very
he just
spiritual
was
guy.
a bad boy at first.
Spiritual bad boy. There's got to be a book title somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think
All
so.
right.
I think it's a good one.
One last 1 minute, and then we're going to open up to the guys to ask a question. And Supernova.
Supernova was my dog, actually.
I
And
know.
she was awesome. I got her at around 2 years old. She passed away after I had her for about 10 years. And I got her specifically for a simple reason. Originally, dogs don't have analytical minds like humans. They they're in their animal, they function on their animal. And I wanted to see, I started applying all these principles around like Caesar Milan and working with animals to really understand what it's like to get beneath the neocortex and have to teach something and bond with something beyond that analytical, what it is to feel her heart, to feel her emotional needs, to be able to train her and get her to change her behaviors to become healthier and more functional because I got her out of the pound without being able to explain stuff to her. So I could really understand the animal part of a human better when I taught them the mammalian part, that simple part.
Yeah, and most of the folks know Nala's always right down here at my feet as well. My
Yeah.
3-year-old pit bull.
And she
All
was
right.
half pit.
Oh, yeah, they're great. They're great. I've taken up a bunch of the time because I just want to talk to you, but I want to give the guys some Q&A time.
I was very addicted to women for many years. And I realized one night when I didn't have a woman at my house and I wanted to I had a woman over every night of the week and I was having sex every night of the week or at least hanging out with a woman. And one night a woman couldn't come over and I was sitting there and I was frantically trying to find another woman to come over. And I realized at this time that I needed women for validation to feel good about myself. And I was miserable when they weren't around. This was a long time ago. So I immediately really made a big decision. I cut off all women and I committed to 4 months and I started dating myself. And I went out and I started taking myself on snowboarding trips by myself. I started taking myself on literally to the restaurant, dressing up for myself. I started saying, how can I fall in love with the guy in the mirror? How can I have as much fun as humanly possible with that guy in the mirror? And so that I don't need these women anymore to be happy. How can I learn to get beneath all the parts of myself that I'm trying to use them to distract from? That was probably one of the best periods of my life. It actually went longer than 4 months, changed my life radically. And when I came out the other side, I was immensely happier. And the first thing I did when I said, okay, it's time to start dating again, is I met my next girlfriend, long-term girlfriend. And she walked in the laundry room of the apartment building I was living in, where I had Supernova with me, and Supernova barked at her, and she screamed and ran out of the room. And I yelled out that while I was folding my laundry, I just yelled out, "She won't bite you. You can come on in." And she came in, and boom, and she was more confident, more beautiful, more sweet than any other woman I'd ever dated. And I attribute that a lot to falling in love with myself at that point.
Yeah, in Supernova.
Start a tension/confidence journal. Watch the video How to Make Stress Your Friend by Kelly McGonigal on TED Talk. It's a TED Talk. It's about 14 to 17 minutes. And you'll understand the nature of stress. That stress is a really, really good thing to develop masculinity, to develop confidence, and then get the right amount of stress. If you read my book, I have a motivational chart in there. If you're down in the I have to do stress. I've got to do stress. There it is right there. I need to do stress. I want to do stress. You're not in the right place. You want to get in choice. So if you go to the gym and you can only squat, let's say 135 pounds, and you want to squat 200, you don't go right to 200, do you? You squat 135 pounds and you add a little bit of weight, and when you work your way up, you build the muscle, you get enough sleep, you eat the right nutrition. That's what attention journal is all about. Confidence journal. It's adding just the right amount of tension for you each day, and then practicing so you get that rush. You want to associate tension, stepping into tension and dealing with difficult situations with a chemical rush where you get an oxytocin hit, which is what that YouTube video will explain. It'll explain the difference between you're getting too much cortisol, which will damage your heart, to oxytocin, which will repair your heart and make you fall in love with the tension. It creates love for tension. And as men develop that oxytocin response to the tension they're stepping into on a daily basis by hitting the right amount of tension from choice, from courage, they'll start to fall in love with it. When that starts to take over, they'll start stepping into more and more and more and more tension, and then they'll get addicted, and it'll become an amazing cycle.
All right. I love that answer. I know what I'm gonna start doing in my journal.
For me, if the woman was mentally abusive all the time, yeah, I'd set a boundary and put a stop to it if she's literally not healthy as an individual. But if she's a healthy woman and she's just mad at me, like I had a girlfriend once, my Colombian girlfriend, she said, Brian, I'm really upset with you. Like, we got to talk. And I was eating dinner and I stepped aside and I said, yeah. And I looked right at her and she said, I feel like you just want me for my body. I don't feel like you really want me. And I just sat there and I breathed her in through the conduit, through my heart. And I felt, or she said, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just feeling you right now. And I sat with the feeling of what she was saying and breathed her in because she was sincere, because she meant it. This was important to her. And she wasn't just being crazy, but she was mad. And then it hit me like that because my gut brain turned on, my heart turned on and said, she doesn't feel connected to me because all week long I've been ignoring her. My logical mind was saying, and I was listening to the two, was saying, I have wanted to, I took her to dinner, we went to the movies. What does she mean? I just want to have sex with her. I just see her as a sexual being. Then my emotional brain says she doesn't feel connected to me because I've been distracted the whole time I've been taking her out. So I must not really care. That's what her mind is thinking. And I went, oh. So I said, come here. She went, what? I said, come here. I grabbed her, picked her up like we just got married, carried her into the bedroom, threw her on the bed, jumped on the bed and started cuddling with her and telling her how beautiful she was. That never came up again. I breathed all her anger in and she melted. Do you see what happened? And because most of the time, your problem with women is lack of connection. There's somewhere she thinks you don't care anymore. You're not connected. That's most of the time.